Hello, I'm Dani Walker. This is the Miss Universe Colombia Recap. Welcome to my channel, pageant family. Please be sure to subscribe and hit that notifications bell if you haven't already, and also follow me on social media at Dani Walker. This is my first time recapping the show. It was all completely new to me. This was requested by you, so thank you so much for that request. I'm excited to get into this today. The first thing I want to talk about is the show opening. I was so happy to see how beautifully dressed all the contestants were. The outfits were coordinating, but they were in slightly different colors. The style looked great on all of the contestants. I also like that they did very simple walking patterns. I talked a little bit about this in my recap for Miss Indonesia, which you guys can check out right up here. And I talked about how hard it is for so many contestants to not only dance, but dance in heels. So I was really happy to see that they gave each contestant really simple walking patterns. One thing that really distracted me was the background graphics. They were butterflies that were really bright colors just flying everywhere. And I kept getting drawn to the butterflies when really my focus should have been on the contestants. Is that something that distracted you as well? Comment butterfly down below. I want to know if it's just me, or is that something else that you found distracting? Something I want to note during the intros was that there were 3 contestants that reminded me of former title holders. One looked like Mig Belize, who was Miss Venezuela. Another one looked like Gabriela, another Miss Venezuela, who became Miss Universe, and then another contestant looked like Zuleika, who was Miss Universe in 2006, I want to say. So it really threw me off when I saw those contestants, and I was like, oh my gosh, these women, they're just so stunning. And it made me also think, why in the world have I not recapped this show before? Colombia does so well at Miss Universe, so why have I not watched this national pageant yet? Are there other shows that I should be watching too? Please leave your requests in the comments below, because I have been missing out. I should have watched this pageant a long time ago. I really liked in the opening when the contestants each came out with flags. I would assume that those flags were for the areas that they were representing. That is something that I've always wanted to see at Miss Universe. Maybe it's happened before, but I just haven't seen it in recent years. I would love to see at least the contestants that are in a semifinal have their flags somehow waving on stage. And I don't mean a digital one like on the screen behind them, but actually a flag. I think it would be kind of cool to add somewhere in there, or somewhere for an opening number. Someone please tell me who the hosts are. The hosts for me tend to steal the show for all of these different national pageants that I watch. I love them. I want to know, are these 2 hosts former Miss Colombias? Because I have no idea, but I thought they were both so beautiful, and honestly, they look like they're ready to compete too. I love that they talked about the prize package for this pageant. That's something that I really miss seeing at Miss USA. That's something that I enjoyed when I was watching the pageant years ago, was just knowing what her year would look like and what she was receiving. And I don't know why we don't do that anymore at Miss USA, but if I were in charge, I'd like to bring it back, also to shine a really nice spotlight on all of the pageant sponsors. Speaking of Miss USA, I did another episode about my favorite contestant headshots for the 2020 contestants, so if you want to see that, I'll link it up here as well. You guys can check that out. A lot of you are asking if I know when the pageant will be. I have no idea. I am on the same page as you are. When they release that information, we will all know. We moved right along into evening gown, and I did not expect that. I thought that we would see swimsuit first, but I'm cool with it as long as we got to see gown at some point. I really loved that before each contestant walked for gown, they had this little video clip of them that had a close-up of either the contestant's face, but more importantly, her gown. I just really liked that we could appreciate the details. You can tell that all of that footage was pre-shot, obviously, and it was interesting also to see that some of the contestants changed things about their styling, and I really wonder why that was. Is that strategic? Is it because they wanted to show 2 different looks to the judges, or did it just turn out that way? I'm curious about how that part all comes together. If you know, comment below. Let's talk about the gowns. I'm probably gonna butcher all of these names. Sorry about that. Atlántico's gown, I love the corseted waist, the details of that gold dress. It was a typical pageant gown, but I thought it was just so well done and it looked phenomenal on her. I loved it. I'm also wondering, are these gowns sponsored? How does each contestant get her gown? Then I had a note about the background again. There were flamingos behind these contestants. The contestants had to compete with flamingos in the background, and I don't know if you can compete with flamingos. I really don't. They are eye-catching. I love flamingos, but not on a pageant stage. I just don't understand that production choice. But something I did love were the camera shots of each gown and contestant. Initially, when they walked out, we got a great face shot. The girls made eye contact with the camera, loved it. And then we went to the center stage and we got to see a pan shot of the dress from the feet up to her face again. We got to see a full body shot, and then we got to see once again some other panning shots that really just showed off each contestant, and I loved it. And I thought that it was nice that each contestant had a pretty good amount of time on stage for gown. That was good. I noted that Bolivar looked so beautiful in her gown. I just thought it was all very well done. By the way, if you're watching on a mobile device, please screenshot this episode, post it to an Instagram story, and tag me at Dani Walker to let me know what your thoughts were about this year's Miss Universe Colombia. Cartagena, she looked so pretty with the pink and gold tones of her gown with her skin tone. It's really rare to see a very unique color match so perfectly with the contestant. I don't know whose idea that was for her gown, but I loved it. Cauca, I wrote that she was just absolutely stunning, and I loved her performance overall. I just wanted to see a softened facial expression. I felt like we were really going for that serious look the majority of the time, and I just wanted to see that lighten up just a bit, but she is gorgeous. Cesar was one of my favorites. I thought she was so beautiful. I was so sad for her when her evening gown got caught to her shoe or the stage or something. I think that she played it off really well. I wish that she would have gotten back into competition mode a lot sooner. I felt like because of what happened to her on stage, it did affect her overall performance, but that's something that's not easy to deal with on stage. I loved her though. She was by far one of my favorites. To me, Choco was one of my favorite contestants. I thought she was so gorgeous. I loved the top of her gown when I first saw it, but I was disappointed that it was a high-low. I thought that it took away from the elegance of it, and then it also was really distracting because I was just looking at her shoes, and her face is so stunning that I really wish we would have seen her in a full-length gown so we could focus more on her beauty instead of her shoes. Willa was just so beautiful in her gown that reminded me so much of Carolina's dress from my year at Miss USA. She was top 3, and their gown rhinestoning was very similar, so it took me back to that, but I really wish we would have seen her hair down for this. She was one of my favorites because she's so stunning, and I think maybe that's why they put her hair up, because she can definitely carry that type of hairstyle, but still, for the overall look of the dress, I would like to have seen her hair pulled down for this. Magdalena, oh my gosh, I absolutely thought that she looked like a celebrity. The gown was really simple for a pageant, and the styling was pretty simple too, but I thought that it all looked so great put together. On top of that, she had a wonderful performance to complement all of that. Norte de Santander, oh my gosh, I love that she ended up competing with her hair up, because that's really what took her to another level for me. Although once again, I didn't love the high-low dress, she was still so stunning when she walked out on stage. I thought that was a really great change for her. To me, Quindío really popped in that blue. It was something very different because until that point, we had seen a lot of pastel or metallic colored gowns, and to see her in that blue was something that immediately caught my eye. Region de Caribe, wow, I immediately took a note for how well she was put together. She just looked like such a queen. In that moment when she walked out for gown with her hair, makeup, walk, styling, all of it, I could easily see a crown on her head. I'm curious, can contestants come back to this pageant and recompete? Or is she eligible still to compete for some other big international titles? Because I would love to see her at a different international pageant. San Andreas was so beautiful. I just wish we would have seen a happier face for her for gown. Her body looked phenomenal. I almost thought that the slit was too much. I'm a little bit torn and on the fence about that, whether the slit was over the top or whether it just really suited her. It was something that for me, I felt kind of started to become distracting from her overall performance and presence. But I don't know, what are your thoughts about that gown? Did you love it? Vajay was one of my absolute favorites. The second that I saw her walk out for gown, her face just captivated me. And I really liked the dress as well. I thought it was different. It wasn't just a fully beaded pageant looking gown that we see. That metallic fabric was still really pretty and it flowed nicely on stage. I absolutely loved her. To me, facially, she reminded me of Gabriella, who was Miss Universe. So she really, really caught my eye and was one of my absolute favorites. I also want to mention, if you're preparing for a pageant, check out my free pageant prep crash course. I have linked that in the description below. It'll help you to get things organized to prepare for your next competition. The first contestant that stood out to me that made me go wow for swim was Antioquia. I thought that she really was captivating. She was really fun to watch on stage. Huila was very confident. The one thing I noticed though was that she kept opening her mouth on stage. So I would say kind of either do one or the other. I think it's okay to do an open mouth smile sometimes at a pageant, but to minimize that because I felt like it was a little overdone for that performance. Cesar, again, one of my favorites, loved her so much still for swim. I even liked Cauca more for swim than I did for gown because we did get to see her smile some more, and I think she has such a beautiful smile and I love seeing it for this. Vajay seemed to go the wrong direction for swim. I thought that her performance was going so well and then suddenly she went the wrong way, so I wonder if that cost her in the eyes of the judges. Sometimes it does. Sometimes to a judge it says that you aren't paying attention, you aren't aware of what's going on stage, and as a title holder that's a quality that you need. So I'm wondering if that's what happened to her scores. After swim, they went on to the top 5 announcement, and I absolutely loved the wardrobe change for the hosts. I just have to note that because they looked so fabulous. Speaking of love, if you love this channel, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. It takes less than 10 seconds to do so, and it's the best and easiest way for you to support this channel, and I would really appreciate it. The first in our top 5 was Rayon Caribe. All right, I loved her and I'm so glad to see her in a top 5. I think that she's a really strong competitor and I think that her answer was actually really strong. I'm relying on YouTube subtitles this time to translate these things, so please forgive me if these aren't the most accurate translations, but it's something. So let's get into it. She was asked about who she is, the values of a Colombian woman, and what she wants her voice to represent. She said, "As a Colombian woman, I'd like to highlight the value of resilience. I feel that we are a people of resilience who have been able to be reborn from adversity. Our history has not been easy, and we must continue the path of our predecessors and fight for women's rights." I thought she did a phenomenal job answering that. Next was Quindío. She was asked something along the lines of, which Colombian woman would you like to, I would assume, kind of like follow in the footsteps of, and why? She said, "I wholeheartedly follow the social leaders to support causes we must fight to change, like the inequality in our country to eradicate poverty, illiteracy." Then I missed this next part of the translation, and she continued on to say, "For example, things like child abuse, I identify a lot with social leaders." It sounded pretty good. She looked fabulous as she was saying it, so clearly it worked out in her favor. Huila, yes, that's what I wrote when she was announced in the top 5 because I was loving her throughout the competition, so I was super excited for her. She was asked, what is the role of a young Colombian woman today? And she said, "The role of Miss Colombia is to represent equality, the kindness and virtues that characterize the Colombian woman. Also, of course, to identify the needs that cover our country, to highlight them, and to help them find a solution." Sounded like a pretty solid answer to me. Cauca was next, and she was asked, what's the most significant contributions that Colombian women have made for strengthening freedom and the pillars of democracy in Colombia? Ooh. Okay. She said, "I think the most important contributions that women have made for freedom during the entire historical struggle is the right for women to vote. That is iconic. For me, as a representative to fight for each woman, the women of the household that exist in Colombia, I think that that is the most important contribution. A little bit of a rough translation at the end. Apologize for that. Last to speak was Antioquia, and this was her question. Colombian women have historically fought for their rights. As Miss Colombia, how would you support women in the fight for the right to live free from violence? I like that question. She said, definitely the role of a queen is a role of solidarity, supporting others. We as queens have access to high-level people who can be in charge of carrying out campaigns and support. That would definitely be the best part for me. I thought that this answer was really strong, and it sounded like she was going to elaborate a little bit more, and then suddenly the answer seemed to get cut short. But regardless of that, another awesome answer. As a whole, these women did really well. We did not see any huge flubs in my opinion on stage. I thought that they were all really strong for onstage question, which is really a testament to the judges' ability to pick some great contestants for that top 5. Bravo. Next we move on to the crowning, and this confused me a little bit because the runners-up received crowns as well. Does this mean that they are going to be sent to other international pageants? Are the crowns just for the show, or do they actually have roles throughout the year? Because I've never actually seen or heard about this in regards to Miss Colombia, so I was very confused. Also, instead of starting with a 4th runner-up, they started with a 3rd runner-up, but they called her the 3rd princess. So our 3rd runner-up was Kawaka, our 2nd runner-up was Región Caribe, our 1st runner-up was Antioquia, and then we had 2 left. So instead of announcing a true 1st runner-up, which had already been announced, we just got to hear the name of the new queen, and then the other contestant stepped aside. So does that mean that the other contestant there was technically the 4th runner-up? Can someone please explain? I was so confused by that part. Overall, really fabulous show. I want to start watching this one in the future just because Colombia has sent some of the most incredible title holders to Miss Universe. They do it year after year after year, and I feel like there hasn't really been a Miss Colombia that I don't love. They're all just so stunning and so well prepared. I'm always blown away by them. Because of how incredible they are, I really enjoyed doing this recap. Honestly, if I was judging, this would have been a really hard choice because when I started at the beginning of the show, I personally did not see a clear winner throughout the whole pageant. For me, I liked one in gown, and I liked one in swim, and I liked one for top 5, and I liked them all for very different reasons. So as a judge, I would have had a hard time selecting a title holder, and I had a hard time figuring out who was gonna win because honestly, when I started doing this recap, I totally forgot who our current Miss Colombia was, and I was gonna go check, and then I thought, you know what, no, I'm just gonna wait. I'm just gonna recap it and be surprised at the end. I was surprised to see who the winner was, and I really just enjoyed recapping this one. I hope that you enjoyed it too though, and that you are subscribed, that you're gonna come back for more recaps and bring your friends. And also, please be sure to follow me on social media at Dani Walker and tune in for the next episode. Thanks for watching this one.